Welcome everybody to the HCS Bracket Show. I am your host, Waveburnn, aka Arham. And if this is your first time catching us here on Twitch or on YouTube, thank you for joining us. Like I said, I am your host, and joining me here are my two co-hosts. First up, if you're a fan of Halo on YouTube and you watch Halo YouTube videos, you know this person by name. He's a household name. It's DeviousGruntAlliance. Devious, how are you doing today, man?
Doing great, Waveburnn. Good to see everyone virtually. And we're going to have a spicy conversation.
Oh yeah, we got a lot on the menu today. And secondly, before we get too far into it, if you are trying to get better at Halo, you need to know who this guy is. Everybody give it up for Halo's best dressed analyst, Audley Wright. Audley, how you doing, man?
Doing good. Representing some new fits today. I gotta outdo Goofy, man.
Right.
And Goofy was looking fly, and you're looking. Admittedly, you are looking flyer. I will give you that.
Keeping up the figure skater chic.
Yeah, you got to show the pants too, like the velvet. You can see a little shimmer.
I feel like I don't want to get us kicked off the air, like trying to show up.
We gotta warm him up a little bit to get to that point. Well, guys, we have a lot to talk about here. HCS Kansas City, is finally behind us, and I don't know if you guys know this, but a certain somebody here was 100% correct
100%
in his predictions. Yeah. Let's take a look at the final standings here at HCS Kansas City. Sentinels take a shocking first place. Cloud9 finishing second. Optic finishing third. United landing that fourth place spot. FaZe Clan finishing at a predictably disappointing 5th, 6th. Pioneers showing up, also landing 5th, 6th. And then two European teams breaking the top 8. Ascend and Quadrant.
You were talking about being right. Can I just highlight that 8th spot there? I think somebody in this group said to look out for Quadrant, that they might surprise some people.
Well, you were absolutely right, and so well done, Audley. What? Actually, before we get into it, let's actually take a look at the journey that Sentinels took to get here. And just take a peek at the final winners bracket first. We see, speaking of Quadrant, day 2, they almost got knocked out. Sentinels almost got knocked out by Quadrant in a really tight 5-game series. But Sentinels showed up to play on day 3, beating Cloud9 3-1, then Optic 3-2, and then clean sweeping Cloud9 in the grand finals 4-0. Making their series score against or their career tournament score against Cloud9 7-1, which is pretty shocking.
It's so interesting
different
too.
Teams. Sorry, go ahead, Devious.
No, I was gonna say it's so interesting too, because one stat line that probably a lot of people know about is that Cloud9 went undefeated with every other team besides Sentinels, but Sentinels completely smoked them. They had their number. And what that tells me is that Sentinels definitely prepared for however they could with Cloud9's playstyle. I know it might be a little bit unpredictable, but that's what that tells me. They're a team that studies their opponent really closely, and I know they definitely studied Optic. They studied Cloud9. Maybe they didn't pay attention to Quadrant as much, and maybe a little bit shaky in that matchup. But it's one thing about their adversity, right? Like the players and Sentinels, I should have saw it beforehand. Like they were kind of just reaching to that form, even that last phase tournament, and it just clicked. And that's the one thing you can never doubt with these players. They could just get to this level that, honestly, a lot of us forgot. I forgot. You did not, Arham. Oddly, you did say they have the best way of approaching Halo, but I thought they were kind of on a downslope, and there was a wake-up call. They completely smoked the competition on Championship Sunday, and all of them were looking so great. It was so amazing to see. I thought on that Sunday, we saw a new level of Halo Infinite played. I think it was the most intense, just best teamwork I've seen so far in Halo Infinite. It just, the pressure, it just caught Cloud9 and Optic off guard, and Sentinels, they're right now, even the players are some of the best players in the game, I would say.
And the thing I wanted to highlight was that it wasn't just Quadrant and Optic that took Sentinels to 5 games. There was also the pool play series against Pittsburgh Knights. Pretty sure they went all 5 games.
Right.
So there are 3 different teams, 2 of them from not even in our same country, that took Sentinels to 5 games. And Cloud9 had 7-8 chances and still only took 1 game.
It's so crazy.
So Sentinels showed that they are Cloud9's daddy this tournament.
Yeah, let me ask you guys this. Is it safe to say that this Sentinels roster is the greatest Halo team of all time after this win?
The very high chance of arguing that. I was waiting for like another title because you have their success in the past, but most of that is in Halo 5. We had like a little small gap of like the online events and the throwback events. Like definitely parts of Sentinels were performing really well in those as well. But I was waiting for the next title, and the fact that they won here against a very strong Cloud9 team and an Optic roster that a lot of people thought would win this event, it rivals it. I'd have to like go back and see like the run of Final Boss, but I think it's arguable at this point, especially Lethal too, specifically.
All of your thoughts?
What do you think?
I mean, we've got a team that won an event in 3 different titles. Well, a trio of players with different fourths that won games in 3 different titles. So, I mean, it's still not quite there. I think they are better than Final Boss were in their era, and I think most of the top like 8 to 12 teams are better than Final Boss relative to the level of talent, but that's more because there is a greater understanding of how the game is played these days compared to back then. Like, there's more ways to study the game, to learn the game. There's theater mode, there's live streams, there's more access to being able to hear other comms and hear how to communicate better, how to improve your teamwork. So the teams that are at the highest level are at a higher level overall these days than they were back then. But that's just true of everything because the understanding has improved. So I think,
and they do it for
after Worlds. Yeah, after Worlds, we'll be able to definitively say, is Sentinels the best Halo or greatest Halo team of all time? But as it is right now, we can't even definitively say they are completely the best team in the game because they were literal moments away from losing that winners bracket series to Optic, and that could be a completely different tournament.
Right.
Well said. Well said. Tossing it back to you, Devious. Was there a player on that Sentinels roster that you really felt stood out this event, that you felt like really brought it to the table and led their team, to victory or anything like that?
Yeah, so honestly, if I'll be honest, there were 3 players on that roster. I thought Snakebite, Frosty, and Royal 2 played brilliantly. Probably all-time highs for this game. Snakebite played incredibly at Anaheim, and he did just as good at this event too. But one player I looked at specifically who I was like really amazed by was Royal 2. And Royal 2 I'm having as my Deviant of the Week. If you guys don't know Deviant of the Week, it's basically a player that I thought was a stand-up player from the week. And this is referencing to Kansas City, of course. Royal 2, he had the horrible start, right? He had the horrible start to this game. And at Anaheim, you saw like glimpses of success. Like you saw the crazy shock rifle kills against FaZe. And in this tournament, there were plays that I didn't think a player was capable of individually doing in this game. A game that it's so hard to really stand out and make those plays to completely change around games. But Royal 2 is making them like routinely against the best teams. Crazy kills that even Formal himself said that literally shook him and just checked him out of the series. And Royal 2 just single-handedly did that. Yeah, that was crazy. Got in their head. Renegade's head too, I'm sure. Yeah, this clip, which Royal 2
saw him on the ledge. He jumps up.
Yeah, so again, I think all 3 of those players in Sentinels played really well specifically, but Royal 2, I was like the way I saw him, I was like, yeah, like Royal 2's back. Like this is just incredible shooting. I was really impressed by him.
Do you guys think that this, we talked about this a little bit in one of our previous episodes when they finished 4th at Anaheim, and we were like, they were practicing with Formal during the Pro Series, and they had plenty of time to scrim with Royal 2, but they didn't really show up, and they did bring a lot of excuses to that event, like we didn't have enough time to warm up, or we just weren't quite there, and we did kind of clown them on that. We were like, oh, Sentinels are just making excuses again. Do you think we were wrong? Do you think like they were right in this first place finish in having more time to prepare as a cohesive unit? I'll give that to you, Audley. What are your thoughts?
I don't really think anything has changed that much for them. And like right before the event, we did our show, and I highlighted exactly what it was about Lethal that I felt reflected in his stats that he was underperforming. And if you look at those same stats at this tournament, only one of those was still like even remotely questionable, and that was his accuracy stat. But again, that's because he is the king of pre-firing. He will just unload a clip into a wall and not care because he's waiting on you to re-peak. But like he's spent a lot more time not losing 1v1s. Like he stayed alive in a lot more situations. He had a better damage per kill assist. He had better like damage dealt over damage taken than he had in like all the online tournaments. So him doing a slightly better job carrying his weight made it easier for Snakebite and Frosty to do what they've been doing all along. And like I said prior to the tournament, they've been playing the best Halo out of all the teams. They've just not been able to individually get the job done. And now that they can, or now that they did when it mattered, they won a tournament.
And speaking of their teamwork, and this touches kind of on what you were talking about, Devious. Let's talk about Lethal for a second. I think there's no argument here. Going into this tournament, it was all eyes on Lethal for this event. A lot of people were talking about
dogging on him.
A lot of people were dogging him for
much.
real though. And I still remember in the event before this at Anaheim when Clutch was like, he went on this whole spiel before one of their final matches where he was like, Lethal, you have to step up. Like Lethal, like if this match is on you. Do you guys think Lethal brought it this event? Do you guys think he's still struggling? Do you think we were all wrong, or was there still truth to what we're talking about? I'm going to let you answer this first, Devious.
Yeah, here's the thing. I think what Audley said, referencing his stats, I didn't look at the stats. I think it's still, I took a glimpse of them, and they didn't look so great. But what I saw from Lethal this event, and here's the thing about Sentinels, like Snakebite, Frosty, Royal 2, they're all going to get the screen time on the stream. So there's a lot of stuff that we don't see that Lethal does behind the scenes. But from the few glimpses we did see, I saw a lot of important kills that Lethal got. A lot of clutch plays, especially in the Aquarius flag with Cloud9. I forget if it's I think it was a winner's bracket match. He had a lot of just really crucial kills that were so important. So even though he did really bad stat wise, I think he did enough to basically shut everyone up. It doesn't matter how bad or good you think he's doing. He's doing good enough for them to win, and that's really all that matters at the end of the day. So I think we're still kind of right in a sense. I think it's really hard to judge how well he's actually doing, but he definitely did better. He definitely did better this event than last one. So I will say that.
What about you, Audley? What are your thoughts? Does Lethal still need to step it up, or did he shut up the haters? Did he make the haters shut up?
I think he's still on the fence, but he's on the right side of the fence now. He performed well enough, and if you look back at those games that they played, there's so many instances where someone's dying that he put shots in, or he'd die and get into fights with 3 different people in the same life and have all of those players weak, and all of them would die after he did. So even if he individually suffered, didn't get a kill, and died himself, he got 3 assists out of it. So there was a much better job of him putting in the damage everywhere he needed to that helped his team go off. And that's the little things that he needed to do to really push Sentinels to be where they needed to be.
Well, Well, amazing performance by Sentinels in this event, and good on them for getting the dub. Let's see what they can do at this next event, which is quite a few months away. That being said, there are a lot more teams that play Halo than Sentinels, turns out. And let's actually go through now and let's look at the elimination bracket from Kansas City. And starting with the first 3 rounds, Audley, why don't you tell me what stands out to you here? Why don't you walk us through this side of the bracket?
Okay, so the first chunk there, you see EMGG comes out of open bracket. They beat the Chiefs, the best ANZ region team there was, and that's pretty much as high as you could have expected the Chiefs to place. I honestly think if the Chiefs were in open bracket, they wouldn't have made it out. There was a big surprise, though, off stream later that night. They took down Built by Gamers. They beat Nemesis, Mines, King J, etc. EMGG actually really surprised me with their placing this tournament. I thought it was a stretch for them to get out of the open bracket, but they showed up. And if you're unfamiliar with who EMGG were, they're the team that Sparty actually paid for their trip to go because they were on Esports Arena.
Oh, that's right.
They got dropped last minute. My friend Rob Mao over at EMGG signed to them last minute to help get them at the tournament, represent EMGG for that specific tournament. Their players are JK7, who I don't really know much about. There's Goldstar BR, who's been tearing it up in free-for-alls for a long time.
Flurious, I think.
Fluriously is another one that does really well in free-for-alls. And then the last player is Diagram, and Diagram is the triplet brother of some other players that are playing in the lower scene there. L Avenue is his brother, and also his third triplet brother is on XSET. He is Suppressed.
Right.
And as a completely random aside, they are currently playing in a tournament with Boo Boo Doo Boo as their fourth tonight on, I think, Esports Arena, or actually a Pittsburgh Knights Arena tournament right now. But they managed to get all the way to top 16 before being taken down by G2, which is not surprising result there, but they even took a game off G2. So they really overperformed this tournament, and I'm really happy to see those guys doing that well. Next chunk, it was the biggest surprise to me of the tournament. No, go back.
My bad.
Going down a line. Luminosity
Bottom, right?
being eliminated by J-Lings.
Oh,
That is huge surprise for me. Like, I expected Luminosity to be minimum top 16, and for them to have finished top 24 is massive underperformance on their part. They barely made it out of open because they actually lost to EMGG in the open series. Then Complexity handled their business against J-Lings before XSET handled them. Blackhand EU got a little further than I expected, but they were matched against the second seed out of the Mexico region. So it was EU 4th or 5th seed versus Mexico 2nd seed, and EU won that before Space Station just obliterated them, and then Fnatic took down Space Station. Red Wolves was another surprise team for this tournament. That was a team that had been playing really well in the open bracket, or in the open series a lot lately. It's Shock, Parzellian, Precision, who is a top Gears of War pro, and I don't know their fourth off the top of my head, but I was constantly pointing out how their placings throughout these open series has been consistently going up, so them making it out of open wasn't a huge surprise to me. But then Liquid Execute in the chat says Groovy was their fourth, another COD kid. Parzellian is also a COD kid.
Okay.
Dude, but Navi, they matched up against Navi, and I've been saying for a while, Navi's teamwork is bad. Navi's approach to the game is bad. The only thing they've had going for them in general is they have power weapon control, and if you don't have that with Navi, then you just lose the games. And they got eliminated at top 24. So Navi got exposed for being bad at Halo. And
yeah, Rainwater, it was a disaster. It was, I didn't expect
G1 got a little further than I expected because I would not have picked G1 to beat PK. Pittsburgh Knights, I thought were going to be in the top 8, but they fell a little bit earlier than expected. So that's the end of that chunk. Go ahead and move on to the next tab. And we see FaZe handled G2 no problem. Quadrant handled XSET. A little bit of a surprise for everybody except, the guy that predicted Quadrant to be the team to watch out for. KCP handled Fnatic, no surprise. And then Ascend beating G1, not a big surprise as well because Ascend was definitely the top EU team, and I was saying 5th, 6th was probably their ceiling, but 7th, 8th is their realistic expectation. FaZe over Quadrant 3-0, KCP over Ascend in a match that I love because that's basically carbon copies of one another from across the pond, just launching at one another and going 5 games. And wasn't it like 50-49 at the end?
No, that was a Fnatic one. The Ascend one was the Druck Hail Mary nade. Those two series are crazy. The KCP, like for top 12 and top 8, those are insane.
United just destroyed what looked like a deflated FaZe team, and Cloud9 no problem against KCP. Again, Cloud9 I don't think lost a game to anybody except Sentinels.
Yeah,
but
which I didn't notice honestly until I looked at the tournament after. I was like, "Oh, they didn't lose a map to anyone else."
Yeah, Cloud9 just destroyed United. They handled Optic. There were a couple of close games against Optic where it looked like it could have gone either way, but they still 3-0'd Optic either way. Before eating Dad and Dad bites belt in the grand finals.
Huh. One way to word it.
So let's talk about Optic here and their performance for a second. I know, they were probably the fan favorite coming into this event, which obviously no surprise. Fan favorite, Optic being the fan favorite. They just got such a huge fan base. But let's talk about what happened, and before we get into it ourselves, let's look at this clip from Formal, who talks about his experience. This is courtesy of the Flycast from Optic Nation's YouTube channel. If this interests you at all, go to their YouTube page and check it out. But this is a pretty long clip. It's about 4 minutes, and let's just hear it out. Let's hear what Formal himself had to say about his performance.
I got checked when... and I don't check easily, dude. I got checked when... First time I got checked out was when we were up 7-3 in the start of the game 5. We were up 7-3. I have Camo Sword. I go grapple. I jump Batledge. Rail 2 is just strafing the door. I'm like, this is so stupid. Why are you doing this? This is so dumb. And I go for the sword lunge. I'm right about to kill him. He no-scopes me in the head. And I was thinking to myself, okay, hold on. I've never died like that, not once before.
It's such a Royal 2.
It was just such a it was godlike. It was the kill of the tournament. It probably won them the tournament off that shot alone. But I was like, God, that was so fated of him. What if he misses? Then I just kill him and PJ right below him, and then we're up 9-3 with all the weapons and everything, and we probably steamroll them after that, But instead, I'm like, dude, what the fuck? And then I push long haul 4 different times, and I get someone red bar 4 different times, and at that point I was fucking checked. I was 0-8. I could feel that too. One time I go long haul, I'm like, let me just get my first kill. I beat down and stick him. I'm like, die, you motherfucker. I stick him too. APG kills him in front of me. I get another assist. I'm like, dude. I'm like, what the fuck? Now I'm 0-9. I'm like, what is going on? So I was extremely checked from that point on.
Yeah.
And I should have done a much better job of being a leader about it, but dude, it was just I was just remember thinking we're down 10. I'm like, dude, this shouldn't have never this is so stupid. I can't believe that he hit that shot. It was so stupid.
Yeah.
So there we hear it from Formal himself. He was especially tilted at that Royal 2 play, but it's just interesting to see a player on player of that high level caliber getting so tilted and being so affected, especially by someone that he plays with, fairly often. So what were y'all thought on that?
He was so tense in the way he spoke, and I think the one thing he mentioned is that they were a set of kills away from getting to the grand finals. And that is true. They definitely were. The thing is, though, what Sentinels did at the very end is what they always do. They're a master of just beating the odds. They're a team of adversity, and they clutch all the time. That's what they are. That's why they're one of the best, if not the best, Halo teams ever. And Formal hasn't played Sentinels on a championship Sunday yet. He played with them, but not against them. And I know Formal has all these accolades from Call of Duty and Halo, but he's just gotten back. This is his first real tournament, and I don't think he was expecting the pressure that Sentinels like brought, and really a lot of us weren't too. But the way Sentinels was playing, they were playing how they always played, like just perfect clutch up, like just at the very last moment. That's what they do. That's what they're so good at doing. And like we could talk more about Formal's performance too. I thought he had some good plays. I thought he had some bad plays, but I think the overall idea is that he was under a lot of pressure. The whole Optic team was, and Cloud9. You could tell, like, even visually in their cams, like they were sweating, man. Like they were really pressured by how Sentinels were playing. So I don't think he was really ready for that, and really no one was ready for the pressure that Sentinels brought. I thought, again, they played the best Halo Infinite that we've seen so far in this game.
What about you, Audley? What do you think about Formal? You know, like we've talked about, he was so hyped up. He was supposed to be the missing link for this Optic roster.
You're supposed to be the chosen one.
Was he? Is he still?
He still might be. He still might be.
No, like it's very easy for me to just say, just go look at my stream VODs anytime I reviewed any of his scrims POV from Optic. I was constantly calling him out on plays where like he's being the first one in, being that entry frag sort of play style, and he was overexposing himself to unnecessary damage every time he was doing it. And every time I called him out on it, I was like, this is a play that if they're playing a better team, they get exposed for this. And like you see it in game 2 and game 5 versus Sentinels, he got exposed for it like super hard. Like game 5 was just a goose race between him and Lethal to see who would be the first person to get a kill, and we're 6 minutes into the game before Lethal finally breaks the goose, but Formal doesn't get a kill till like there's 3 minutes left in the game. And like it was just, he was getting super exposed because he's always so forward, and a team like Sentinels that studies their opponents. Like I got a message during the grand finals from Mikwin where he said, I need you to analyze, like go into this and figure out how Sentinels do this. I was like, do what? It's like, make the game a 4v3. Like every time they play a specific team, they shut down one very specific player and the rest of the game is a 4-on-3. He said like anytime he was playing with Envy and Halo 5, it felt like Eric Snipedown never got anything done because they were shutting him down. And I know from when I was working with Team Liquid at that time, Spartan was always a player they would shut down super hard, versus Cloud9 in this tournament. They shut down Renegade super hard. Like every time they play a specific opponent, someone on that team gets singled out. And when you have a play style like Formals where you're always the first one in, it's easy to just hide and wait on you to expose yourself. Then they overload where you are and you just get eliminated. And if you go back and watch the Livefire Strongholds and the Aquarius Slayer of Optic versus Sentinels, you see that happening. Like, even though they Optic won the Strongholds, every time it was both teams were 4 alive, if you watch the players' names at the top, the first one that goes gray is Formal. Like almost every single time, he's the first one picked. And in the Aquarius Slayer, it's not just that he's the first one getting picked. You see the kill feed where pings show up. They're pinging exactly where he is. Even if he just runs across their screen, they're pinging the path that he's running, and then he's the first person dead immediately after. So they were playing to shut him down. Whether he adjusted to that, whether he was playing poorly or not, that was their strategy. It was shut Formal down and just win the game off of that. And Cloud9 did the same thing to a degree, but Formal performed much better against them, partially because I feel like they don't have as much patience as Sentinels do. Like Snakebite, Royal 2, Lethal, they can be patient players if they need to be. And against Optic, they were. They waited for opportunities, opened up those opportunities, and converted it to wins against Optic. Regarding the Streets oddball, I just want to echo Maniac, all those players. That was not APG making a bad play. He made the absolutely correct call to drop the ball and play for time. The only difference is Frosty outplayed everyone in that single game, because when he did the pizza jump that was temporarily removed and added back, or about to be added back, APG was watching back commando, waiting for Frosty to come fight him. Frosty was not looking to fight him. Frosty went back out, front trash, killed Trippy, who was one shot, just sitting bench, And because Trippy died, it was then a 3-on-2 for the rest of Optic. So it was a free win for Sentinels once Frosty made that decision. There was no chance Optic come back in that game the moment Frosty decides to go trash.
I do remember you saying when that pizza jump was removed, you were like, if this patch came out 2 weeks ago, Sentinels would not have won that game 5.
Yeah, game 4.
Game 4, excuse me.
Yeah, they would not have even gone to game 5. Optic would have been in the grand finals.
Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting too. Yeah. And like it is like a cascade of these small moments, like Formal's talking about. And we watched that clip earlier of Royal 2 getting that no scope. Like Formal said, if he misses, Formal gets the sword kill on Royal 2. Formal gets the sword kill on Snakebite.
Just what Royal 2 does.
Up. Yeah, they're just up, for the rest of the game.
I got to say, that's on Formal.
Yeah.
Formal hops up on that grapple shot ledge. Royal 2 is looking dead at him. So he should have known Royal 2 was looking for him, should have known he got spotted. And then the moment he sword lunges at Royal 2, his camo breaks, the Royal 2 gets aim assist. So that's why the headshot no scope comes through. So it is a frame perfect execution from Royal 2, but it is because Frosty pushed after he got spotted. And if you get spotted with camo, you can't just ego chow. And even though that's a situation where it's like this guy's got to make like the most insane play ever, it's still an ego challenge, and he got checked.
Got checked. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, in more ways than one. Anyway, let's move on. Moving on from Optic, I hope that they're able to figure it out. Hope Formal doesn't take it too hard. He just bounces back. He's a champion in multiple titles. He's been in this situation before. I do think he'll bounce back. Let's play a game that I like to call Fact or Fraudly. So Audley, as we all know, fans of the show know, Audley's got some hot takes. And this game we play, we try to revisit some of his hot takes and see, what was right, what was wrong. So Audley, why don't you take it away here?
All right, so the first take I brought up that I wanted to go over, I predicted Luminosity. There was a very good chance they would get top 12. Obviously, this is just straight up fraudly. Luminosity massively underperformed. They got top 24 instead. They barely made it out of Open. They had to come from the lower side of Open. I honestly just completely shocked because they played so well in all of the tournaments leading up to this. Thing is, they're all still very young. Like Carmea's, I think, 17. They still have nowhere to go but up. It's super unfortunate they played as poorly as they did this tournament, and not only that, lost to the 4th seed from EU. Like, this is definitely not something I want to see them do in the future. After that, I think my second point was I think Quadrant will perform better than anyone expects, and I think there's a good chance they upset a top NA team. I even predicted there was a good chance. I mean, not a good chance. There was a long shot chance they would upset EU in pools. That didn't happen, but they did go 3-2 against Sentinels, the team that ended up winning the tournament, and they did place second best out of all the EU teams at the tournament. So this is close to being a fact. There's a little bit of fraud in it for the upset, but they definitely showed that since they have picked up Shad, they are unequivocally the second best EU team. And
at the best clips too.
The last one, I don't remember what my point was. You're going to have to give me that lower third to feed me the info. Sentinels have the best approach to Halo. It's just Lethal is underperforming. Lethal's stats went up just a little bit. Sentinels ended up winning the whole tournament. And they had some close games. They had very close series. And the series that were the closest, Lethal's stats were still down low. But we see Sentinels won a tournament, so you can't really say their approach isn't the best right now. And I want to call out the person who eliminated them from the last tournament who said they play Halo wrong. They just won a tournament. I don't think they play Halo wrong.
Right.
I said that after the last tournament. I said the team that said that plays Halo the worst, and now that team is sliding down even further and keep going down a placing every time there's a LAN.
Something that Mamornia said. Royal 2 mentioned that he heard the sword when he pulled it out. That's right. I don't know this for a fact, but when you have camo and you pull out a sword, you can hear it, right? because Formal, he said in that same Flycast podcast that he actually didn't even know that, which like that's like a oversight of him and on his part. Do you guys know that for a fact? If you can hear it when you play
I know with the latest patch, you no longer make sounds when you clamber while camoed. So they're probably changing some of those bits, but it's definitely something that makes noise frequently. And even if you don't have camo, you switch to sword, someone hears it, so they have a chance to react. And still, like,
well, he got spotted
the big thing is, the moment you start the sword lunge, your camo ends or like breaks for a second. So that's the only reason he had aim assist. It was not just a completely blind headshot. It was he knew where to look. He was pre-aiming. He got aim assist because of it.
So that all being said, I think that puts a cap on our KC discussion. Before we get on to our next topic, is there any final note y'all have? Anything you want to shout out about KC before we move on and start talking about some potential roster mania news?
I'm just always impressed by production. I think we are at an era, despite anything that's happening in the background with the game and whatnot, production is the best it's ever been for Halo. Like, it's really cool to see. I think lead up hype, everything, super amazing. The event too, I wasn't there, but I went to Raleigh. Super cool atmosphere. So that's a really cool look for Halo.
Only thing I want to shout out is Status Quo Bopster winning the free-for-all. We didn't mention any of the free-for-all results here, but that shows good old Mikey Chavez still has a great eye for talent. He picked the right person for that. His free-for-all, or his guy got a free-for-all win.
All right,
and
so let's
in other Audley Factor for Audley news. A guy I've been mentioning and hyping up since like January, February, managed to take third in the free-for-all. Ty, reverbed. Some people think it's Riverbed and it's reverbed.
Cool.
He took third at that free-for-all. So
nice.
I've still got my eye for talent too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Flamesword isn't the only one. All right, let's move on to one of the most hot topics in the Halo scene right now.
Finally.
Devious, you wanna break this down for us, talking about another player?
Bit. Yeah. Bit. All right. Well, I know probably everyone knows the story by now. Hot topic right now: Spartan self-benching himself. Here we have Deviant of the Week, literally Deviant of the Week, 5.5 Spartan, Tyler Gonza. One of my favorite players, actually. He was one of my favorite players back when he first emerged in the scene. And he's a discussion topic right now, man. He made a decision to kind of like honestly jeopardize EU United right now. And it puts a lot of question marks of like what's going to happen with Spartan. There's a lot of different possibilities, a lot of contradictions in what he says in his statement and what EU United is saying. But the most important thing is that Spartan made this decision hastily, like before like talks are even finalized within EU United, within the whole team and organization. So right now we're just kind of hanging in limbo, wondering what's going to happen, if he's going to remain on the bench, if he's going to be traded away, if he's going to be bought out, if the team is just going to play with the same roster and somehow make amends. I think that's a possibility too. It's a lot of different options. I know a lot of people are saying like snipe down for Spartan. Like that's the obvious choice. The problem, like there's so many possibilities you could think of. I think right now you got to look from the perspective of EU United. Like what do they think is a good replacement for Spartan? Because for them, they don't want Spartan going to another team. Like that's like the worst case. Spartan, no matter how you look at it, he's one of the best players in the game right now. He's a threat to EU United, and EU United has the control right now. They could literally just bench him for the rest of the season. That could honestly like the most likely possibility, I would say. So right now, Spartan just kind of put his team in a tough spot.
Yeah, let's break down the situation for anybody who may not know what's going on. Spartan from EU United has benched himself, and he gave a couple reasons why. Devious was so kind to provide these screenshots, so let's just take a quick look at them.
Oh, okay.
As we see here, just this highlighted section, basically what happened was Tyler got a text from King Nick at 3 a.m. being like, hey, this was a couple weeks before Anaheim. Hey, why are you guys trying to drop me? Spartan had no idea what King Nick was talking about, and then he comes to find out that Ryanoob is making moves to pick up Formal. This is while Formal was still a free agent and about to break from Sentinels, or he had broken from Sentinels and wasn't on a team yet. Anyway, he finds out that this is all kind of happening behind his back. And now he has chosen to bench himself for like a bunch of different reasons. He talks about something here. After KC ended, he received offers from multiple teams, but EU is holding him. One team that he would like to go to, and they're willing to buy him, but EU is not kind of letting that happen. And we've heard from other players that have formally signed to EU from different games that this is kind of like their thing, right? Like EU is kind of known for this. And this full statement, by the way, is on Spartan's Twitter. You can find it just by scrolling. But I do want to touch on EU's statement as well. And I kind of want to read these highlights that Devious you pointed out. So EU says, over the past few days, Tyler has expressed his feelings to us about making a change, at which time he threatened to bench himself if we were unwilling to meet his demands. We've listened to his requests and worked in conjunction with him to formulate a plan that the entire team was aware of and agreed upon, including Tyler. They go on to say, I believe this was next. They go on to say that EU has recently received some interest in Tyler, but has yet to obtain a formal buyout offer in any form or substance from another organization.
Which is a contradiction of what he mentioned Spartan
that
before.
Is very true. And then they also say that in an effort to accommodate Tyler's wishes, they did reach out directly to another organization to explore potential trade options. But they reiterate EU has yet to receive a formal response from that organization. Now, one thing I want to point out is EU does mention explicitly they have not received a formal, not the player, a formal request.
Big difference.
So yeah, there probably is something going on, behind the scenes, something casually, but which in my opinion is probably what Spartan is referring to. But EU is kind of strict on, hey, this is a business. We're going to do this as a business transaction, and we have not received a formal business offer yet. So there's basically a lot going on here. Spartan is really upset at the team situation. There's a lot of internal team dynamics, like team issues going on with E United right now. If you read that post, he talks about how he was so fully determined to win with this team, how he thought that this team is capable of winning first, but how that they're declining placements, finishing second, then third, then fourth, has really put him off that plus, all this quote unquote shady movements behind the scenes. I want to open it up. I mean, Devious, you just made a YouTube video about it. Guys, if you're watching, go check out Devious's video on his channel about the whole Spartan situation. Do you want to add on that? Do you want to clarify some things you talked about in that video? I'm going to open the floor to you first. Why don't you kind of give us some more of your thoughts here?
So one of the things I spoke about in that video, I referenced 4 possibilities that I thought might happen with this situation. And I want to add a 5th one too, which I'll get to. The first one, though, E United referenced that they're actually in talks with possibly doing a trade for Spartan. And if I'm E United, I want to do at least a lateral trade. And I know it sounds super unrealistic, which is why I think this trade might not happen. But they're going to be asking for the Renegades. They're going to be asking for the Lucid Stellars. And those players, of course, we all know they'll never leave their team. It just won't happen. I think with FaZe, there is some leeway. Maybe there's a possibility there, which is why I think, if anything, Spartan ending up in FaZe is probably the most likely scenario. There's other teams too, like SSG. That's also like a team you could see a shift there too. Good core, like Audley mentioned. But there's obviously some issues. Maybe Spartan could be the catalyst of that situation. But I think in that sense, though, United is going to want to get a player that is just as high value as Spartan. So I think it's going to be really tough for that trade to go through, especially when the top other orgs, like the top three right now, they're satisfied with their teams, in my opinion. Second option, they listen to Spartan. Spartan honestly has a lot of leverage. This could honestly happen too. They bench Ryanoob. They listen to his request because he had two demands. Either he leaves or Ryanoob is gone. So they could bench Ryanoob and then find a replacement. And that, like, there you open it up to, I think, a lot of different players. You can have a lot of players not necessarily playing like Ryanoob style. One thing I referenced was Pistola. Pistola is a possible, even like kind of like a similar play style of how Ryanoob does. He's very like vocal, being that leader. And I think Pistola could be a great fit. What I wonder though is Pistola, which I guess we'll get to in a bit, is if Pistola is even playing right now. Like that's another thing too. Like we don't even know if he's grinding at all now.
Even before we get to that, do you even think Pistola really is what that team needs? Like if you're losing a Spartan, if you're losing a Slayer of that caliber, you know, part of the reason Pistola got dropped from Optic was his like inability to be that player, be that main Slayer or the guy topping, you know, the scoreboards with kills. Is it
saying Ola instead of Ryan?
Oh, Ola instead of Ryan. Got it. That's my mistake. Then yeah, I do agree with that. Like Ola and Ryanoob are probably a little more interchangeable than Spartan and Ola or something like that.
Yeah, the thing with Ola though, which makes it less likely, is that his buyout is apparently crazy. So E United might just grab someone else just for the time being to put out the rest of the season. I know it's like not what they want to do, but it might just happen. And Spartan, honestly, if I'm E United, I value Spartan higher than Ryanoob. It's so weird. It's such a dysfunctional situation, but you know you got to look at it from their perspective. Thank you, 19 Bullet, by the way.
I do want to say, like I have some thoughts about this whole situation as well. Like.
Right.
To me, it's tough to believe that Spartan really, really wants to win right now, in my opinion, because this whole situation seems like it happened. It seems like it happened pretty fast, right? Obviously, we weren't in the rooms. We weren't getting those 3 a.m. texts. We don't know the team dynamics. If this started 2 weeks before Anaheim, it probably lasted a while. But like, I feel like if he was truly trying to win and he was truly trying to place as best as he can, he wouldn't put his teammates in this situation where, hey, all the work that we did together as a team these past, 6-7 months, it's all out the window now. I don't want to play with you anymore. And I think it's super ironic. And again, this is my ignorant opinion, but I definitely think it's ironic for him to be like, hey, King Nick, like, I'm doing this for you, but also I'm not going to play with you. Good luck in these pro series. Yeah, like good luck in the pro series coming up. Good luck in the future tournaments. Like, I'm so mad at what they're doing to you that I'm going to leave the team, and
it
stuff
is
like
a selfish move.
Yeah, and to me, I don't know. Go ahead.
You do know. That's exactly. No, I think you're right. I think it is a selfish move. But I think like it's so hard. Like the thing I don't understand, a lot of people probably don't understand either, is like why did he bench himself so hastily when a decision wasn't made? Because like there's no point of doing that. And I will say that like Spartan has gotten a lot of Twitter hype lately. It could be kind of playing into that. That's like a weird accusation. Maybe he's just like wanting to start a fire because like nothing's really happening now.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about the whole fines thing.
Yeah, the fines, which like, I think it's all kind of related. Related. He just kind of got to a tipping point and like he just wanted to do this thing. Like he just wanted to like screw Ryanoob. Like, let me do this right now.
And I do kind of get it. If he's frustrated at the state of the game, he's frustrated at his team. Like this is his whole career and he's frustrated at his organization. Like that's a lot of things to be frustrated at, especially at a young age when you're trying to make your career. Audley, I haven't opened the floor to you at all. So what are your thoughts about this whole situation?
So for people who have been to my stream, it's no, like you're no stranger to the fact that I think E United have a completely wrong approach to competitive Halo. Like I think
so
all of the Ryanoobs behind the curls videos are great tips for solo queue where you don't have organized play, but as a complete approach to the game, it's far too passive, it's far too defensive. It gives other teams way too many opportunities to get back into a game rather than I live by the saying, when you're ahead, get further ahead, or the best defense is a good offense. And both of those are just completely foreign ideas to Ryanoub at this point with his approach to the game. And, Sparty and Rain were both players that came through the Team Liquid grinder through Halo 5. So I think Sparty deep down knows that when you're ahead, you want to get further ahead. You don't just sit on a 2-cap and hope it works. Like, you push for a 3-cap, you push their spawns, you keep them cycled so you can get further ahead and win the games. And so he understands that if they want to beat Cloud9 and Optic rather than just staying at a 3rd, 4th place team, they have to change the way they play the game. And I think Ryanoub is stonewalling that to the point that they literally won't change how they play the game. And so they're not going to improve. They're just going to remain stagnant while everyone else keeps passing them as they have been. Like, they've fallen from 2nd to 3rd, then 3rd to 4th. And like, I don't think they'll fall further than 4th based, like, if they were to stay together as they are, I don't think they would fall further than 4th right now because the other teams behind them are so far, like, other than FaZe individually, I don't think the other teams have that level of Halo understanding to pass E-United yet. But E-United aren't going to get better if they don't change something. And if there's someone on the team who won't admit that their approach is wrong, then you can't improve, and you have to change that or get free of it. And I think Spartan's absolutely right to like try to make this argument however he can to either let me off this team so I can go try to win with someone who will listen, or get rid of the person who won't listen and let us try to build around something different as a systemic play style. And I think, like I mentioned in the Reddit thread, and Devious mentioned it in passing, but it hasn't been called on stream, regarding SSG. I said the best move E-United can make if Sparty is not going to play for them anymore is to try to trade Spartan to SSG, like, because E-United will not want to. I'll get to that first. United will not want to trade to FaZe, because why would you give your closest competitor a factor that can push them ahead of you again? Like, why would they willingly sacrifice their best performing Slayer to go to a team that's already close to beating them as it is? Like, that's just shooting themselves in the foot. So they would want to trade him down. I think the best possible player to fit Ryanoob's approach to the game is Tylenol, because I've also been a very vocal critic of his play style with SSG and said he's the person holding SSG back because he's so passive. But I think that's a great shit or get off the pot moment for E-United and Ryanoob especially. Like, if you want a player that will play the game exactly the way you're talking about, Tylenol is the perfect fit for Ryanoob. He will not push if the team is down numbers. He will actively retreat if anybody around him dies. So, like, it fits into that completely passive defensive style Ryanoob like insists on so much. So that would be the best player to pair alongside him in order to like really test if his approach to the game is right. And it would also put Spartan onto a team with a player that he's won an event with before, because he won with Ace, Boo Boo Doo and Falcated, I think was the fourth in the one tournament that he won. So it would put him back with Ace alongside Rami and Collect, who are both like sort of underdeveloped talents at the moment, but having a player like Spartan in place of Tylenol would help Collect really shine even more so than it would, because it would take pressure off of him. Because if you have a player that's just actively retreating, that puts so much more pressure on you never to mess up. But if you have a player like Spartan who just blasts open a wall like the fucking Kool-Aid man and says, oh yeah, then you have so much more you can do to come in behind that and clean up. And I think that would be a factor that really elevates SSG and also gives SSG more media presence, because like they've been putting together some great content, but they're still just the who the hell is this kind of org, because they came in outside of Halo's really active phase and came in with Infinite. And it's still just sort of who are you, but they have players that have the ability to really be like to really shine in a spotlight. And I think to really make the trade equitable, SSG would also have to give some sort of cash to, because Spartan going down or going down to SSG is like for Tylenol is not an equal trade at all. So there would definitely have to be some sort of equity.
And
I would wonder, just real quick, I would wonder how much Spartan would improve that team, because SSG's been sitting at top 16 for 2 events now. I thought it would end at Anaheim, like a bad event, but no, they got it again. I'm almost wondering if I'm Spartan, like, I know like he probably wants to play, but like, do you go to SSG? Do you go to a top 16 team?
Does he even want to go to SSG?
For him?
Yeah.
Maybe he just wants to play, end the season. Like, it's only 2 more events, but like, if he goes to SSG, I don't think he's going to win. I think he's going to play. I don't know, like, how much of a choice Spartan would have in this situation if that were to happen. This kind of answers, I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name, Mamonea's question about if Spartan were benched. The Tylenol pick that Tiberius Audley said, that's probably the likely scenario, or a likely scenario. I can't really think of too many players. They would have to honestly just get what they can, I think, at that point. For
I feel like they would probably reach out to Swish before anybody else from Gamers First.
Swish.
That he's the one player that like all of the top pros kind of look at right now as, hey, this is a person that may be able to fill the shoes we have open. And it's also a player that Sparty is very good friends with. So I think Sparty would be in his ear and be like, don't do it. Don't do this to yourself. But I think that would be the first player they would try to reach out to.
I know
I just wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, I know the rumor mill and all the hype, predictions are people want to see Spartan go to FaZe. But I do feel like that's kind of a stretch, especially if, what people are thinking is Snipedown retires from Halo, goes back to Apex, and then FaZe picks up Spartan.
It's like the fairy tale, like perfect scenario.
Exactly, it's a fairy tale to me because EU is not going to let that happen. They let Snipedown retire, and then they just give up their player. Like, they're going to want something back. Frankly, I see Bound for Spartan happening before that's
a trade. Falcated, they might ask for them, and I don't know how that would go. It would honestly just make both teams, I think, stay where they are, which is what this trade is all about.
Neither of those players would fit well into Ryan Oop's understanding of the game. Like, if he wants to drop King Nick and you bring in Falcated or Bound, you're just doubling down on what you're trying to drop King Nick for. Like, those are 2 players that they're unbelievably talented slayers, but they will just die for no reason whatsoever and give up everything that they worked so hard to earn. And that's what Ryan Oob is constantly on Nick about and wanting to like cut off of the team.
Yeah.
And so
you're right. It would be ironic for them to get
either of them. It would just be a side grade for both sides.
Yeah.
I think FaZe would take a hit too. Like the old FaZe, because right now they aren't looking so hot. But I think like individual talent, like having Falcated or Bound, them at their best are amazing. They're great. But if you lose one of those players and you have a Snipedown who's like kind of thinking about Apex, and you bring in Spartan, but you lose one of those high talent players that has that potential, I think that's taking a hit too. So I think both teams would probably either stay the same or get worse. And it's just strange. Like, we don't know what's going to happen with Spartan, man. But I think what's likely to happen is that he's just going to sit out. I think United is just going to hold them. They've done that in the past with other players. Gunless, they did have Call of Duty.
I just feel like that's such a lame move. Like, sorry to like be a little unprofessional here, but like, it's still to me like, if you're Spartan and you say you're trying to win, this is not you. Your actions are different from your words, right? Like, if you say you're trying to win, to me, you work to reconcile with your teammates. You work to actually improve with your teammates and get over whatever like hill that is, you know what I mean? But like, again, I don't know these people. I don't know them personally. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. Like, maybe it is like just that bridge is burned forever, and we know that Ryan Oob and Spartan have had beef in the past. We know like from that infamous clip, right? Like, and we would think like, it was surprising that they teamed up together to form this squad, and we were like, will they implode or have they crossed that bridge? And we all thought they crossed the bridge, but turns out they did implode. So again, like Spartan's a great player, a top talent. I just, I wish, again, don't know the situation, but from the outside looking in, just wish he'd put in that effort to like reconcile, and maybe he has, but there is something to be said. Like this isn't old Halo anymore. You can't just like leave teammates and find a new team just like that. You can't just bail on your org anymore. Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's why Pistola is in limbo right now. He's stuck. He can't go anywhere. If he's even playing now, he's probably out for the rest of the season because he just has that year contract.
Let's actually talk about that really quickly. Ola is a player that we would, is just in limbo right now. Snakebite on his stream recently talked about this, and I do want to show that clip right here. So here it is.
I don't think Ola is gonna play anymore, is my guess, unless he has something like in the works, like off the, off the grid kind of thing. But my guess, since we haven't seen him playing at all, unless he's playing on another account, of course, and like no Twitter or anything like that, I don't know. I really don't know. The thing about it is, like, I don't know, and I don't feel like anyone really knows, which makes me just think I think Ola might he might be done. I'm not sure.
So is it? Yeah, is it the end of an era, y'all? Like, a lot of people consider Ola to be one of the greatest Halo players of all time, and I think he is. So, how can someone like that not find a team? Is it the end for Ola? Have we seen the close of that Ola chapter in Halo's history? Audley, I'm gonna let you answer this one.
Yeah.
Of whether or not this is the end of Ola.
Yeah. Do you think he's sitting out his contract, or do you think just no one wants to really team with him, or has he lost his passion?
I think because of the age of contracts, it's hard to get him onto a team. I don't think Optic are really going to just give away an asset like that for free. So I think he's taking a break. Ola's always been kind of an out there kind of guy as far as like his lifestyle and whatnot. He's very himself, very all about what he is. And I think he probably just doesn't really mesh on an individual level with a lot of people at this point. Like, he's a great guy, great teammate, et cetera, but I think like him getting cut from the team and not being able to immediately be picked up without some sort of compensation from orgs that don't want to make that sort of jump because they're not getting, like they're not going, like Optic's not going to be getting a player back, so it's got to be like just straight compensation to pick Ola up, and orgs aren't going to drop that much money in Halo right now. Like, even with the armor skins and whatnot, I don't think it's that profitable for them to be like paying presumably tens of thousands of dollars to buy out a player from another team. Like, it's limbo, and I think he's probably burnt out at this point too, to the point that he's like, it's not really worth my effort. There's probably many other things he could do. I wish he were making some content or something, or just being relevant in some way. But it'd
be great.
But it's just it sucks. But I think he's basically done at this point. He's had a good long run.
Yeah, I mean, if he retires, today or yesterday, if this was the end, he retires as a GOAT. Like, he truly was one of the best players to ever play this game. And
I don't want it to be the end. This is not the end. He's gonna come back again. This is like, if anything, year 2, he'll be back. I think Miquin, he's gonna team Miquin, and bring some other 2 crazy talents, and they're gonna win their event. It's gonna happen.
That is a good point. We do have a lot of pros who are just waiting in the wings for that. They're like, what is it called? They're not a ban, but like their restriction from playing to be, relieved, and they can start competing again. So,
I want to go back though. Just with the Spartan situation, I'm curious because I haven't heard. Audley, what do you think is going to happen? Like, what's going to be the red resolution? You think?
I still don't know, because I'm not in like any secret room where it happens sort of situations. So I occasionally get whispers from people, but I don't actively prod. So unless somebody just like leaks stuff to me, then I don't know. And if someone leaks stuff to me, I'm not going to tell other people, especially not on a broadcast.
Come on, it'd be a hot scoop.
Never burn your sources. Never.
I was just wondering
That's
because
smart.
I haven't really spoken to this about a lot of people in general. So I was just wondering what you thought might end up happening. I think he might be benched like just for the rest of the season. That's the vibe I get.
I think that's the most likely, but I still think the best like make everyone happy solution is the SSG trade I mentioned.
Right. Okay.
Well, guys, we're coming up on time. We actually may have already hit it and are going a little over. Before we go, we do want to touch on a couple things about Ranked Season 2. As you all know, Season 2 Lone Wolves is out now on Halo Infinite. With that came a couple new maps, new game type for Ranked Season play. So, Audley, why don't you break down this new game type for us?
Before that, I want to call out a Reddit comment I saw. I called it out on Twitter, but someone said Ascend will be very favored in the new King of the Hill game type because they're already really good at strongholds. And someone else said, if you're good at strongholds, you'll be good at King of the Hill. And I want to stop you if you have ever said that. If you think that King of the Hill and strongholds are the same game type, you are unequivocally wrong. You have no idea what competitive Halo is like. And please don't ever say that again, because they are like the exact opposites of skill sets as far as what is highlighted in the game. Because Strongholds is very much about rotations, weak side, strong, or weak side, strong side, and just trying to put pressure on the map where pressure isn't. King of the Hill completely flips that script because there is one central spot of the map that you have to focus on at any given time. And it's more about setting up around where that point is. So like King of the Hill, it's about zoning areas, zoning approach routes to a specific hill. It's almost like Oddball in that sense. And strongholds, like you capture a stronghold, you can leave that and just go away and you're still getting time. King of the Hill, you have to stay there. You can't just run away. You can bait it, but you still have to be in that spot and they're going to know you're there. Like strongholds, you can cap it and just run back tower and you're fine and you're still getting pressure on that spot. Somebody has to deal with that. But King of the Hill, if you're not in the hill, it's very different. So King of the Hill actually favors a team like E United more than Stronghold stuff because they're already very focused around making these passive setups, not pushing away until they have full numbers, until they get a pick or anything along those lines. So like King of the Hill is better for slower passive teams that have a more setup focus. And I think that's a good thing because it highlights a different play style. And it also allows other teams chances to shine, even if they're individually like on the same level, their just approach has been wrong because they're playing this slow passive play. So I think King of the Hill being introduced allows other play styles to shine or shows versatility better. Like Sentinels will be a team that are very able to just turn on a dime and change their play style on that kind of game type. But a team like KCP or Ascend, I think will really struggle on King of the Hill because it'll just be fly at the hill, fly at the hill. Oh, look, Death Pit.
And so why don't you break down some of the changes to King of the Hill in this game and how it plays a little differently from games in the past?
Overall, it doesn't really change that much from how we know King of the Hill, although this King of the Hill, that name is a lie. This is extraction from Halo 4. It is just straight up extraction. You capture the thing, you fill up your time bar, and then it moves somewhere else. That's exactly what Halo 4 extraction was. It's because there's only one point, it's basically King of the Hill. And the reason we didn't have King of the Hill in Halo 4 is because the hill markers were opaque, so you couldn't see a person that was in the hill because there's just this giant white wall between you and the fucking guy in the hill. But it's still very much about you get one player in the hill, everyone else sets up to hold crosses on approach routes, so it kind of plays like Oddball in that sense. Like once you have the person in the hill, that you just try to protect the space around them. You don't necessarily try to protect the hill. And so it's very similar in that sense to Oddball, only you can't rotate the ball, where Oddball is much about rotations and you'll see balls moving all the time, especially like if you watch Sentinels play Oddball, their wins come off moving the ball away from people. But King of the Hill, you don't have that. You have to figure out when to hold and abandon hills, when to set up for your next rotation ahead of time, because unlike a play ball, the rotation is not going to be at a neutral spot of the map. You have to go claim good space somewhere else. Like if the hill is moving to Overshield next and you just lost all control, do you go to tower to try to get shots on the person, or do you go to cuts or go to heat wave to try to cut off routes that other people are going to be going to? And 19th Bullet asking, should you ever stack a hill? It kind of depends on how much time you're trying to milk and how much space you need. Every now and then you got to just throw some fucking bodies in there and pray that you have more bodies than they do and their bodies fall faster. But in general, you want to not cluster in spots because you want to control more space. More space means more protection, and more protection means more hill time. And that's pretty much it for
brilliant breakdown. No, it's great to hear, because I'm struggling on the new. It's different King of the Hill. It's not like the one we know in the past. So it's really insightful the way you laid that out.
Yeah, I kind of like it. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of like the changes. I feel like the changes they made to strongholds as well have made it an interesting spectator sport. And I feel like the same can be said about King of the Hill here. I feel like as a spectator, it's going to be really, really interesting to watch, and kind of as a player as well. You know, I understood hey, there's only like 10 seconds left on the hill. Maybe one of us tries to get scrap time and the rest of us set up for this upcoming hill or whatever. I understood that gameplay, but it just wasn't, it got really repetitive after a while. This is going to be pretty exciting. And
that's the one part I hate that they cut out, is that there's no more of that milk the last few seconds on a hill before it moves. So there's not that decision anymore. Mm-hmm. It's basically just, okay, we have to abandon that and move to the next one instead of throwing our body and just giving them like tempo to rotate to the next hill. Different. But I understand why they made that change. I just don't like it. It feels like it takes away strategical depth.
I think that's actually very accurate. Like as a player, that change is worse. As a spectator, it's a little bit more fun. Well, actually, that's even arguable, because it was fun to see, like Straight Rippin getting all these random scrap times on Construct Hill and, pulling out a win or something like that. Guys, I think that's going to do it for us here on the HCS Bracket Show. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for being a part of this. Please, if you missed any of this today on Twitch, don't worry. It will be on YouTube on Friday. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you follow us here on Twitch, and that way you can see us go live a couple days before we're up on YouTube. Fans, guys, thank you all so much for joining in the chat. It was such a pleasure to sit here and hang out with y'all. Also, don't forget, like I said, follow us here on Twitch, follow us on YouTube, but don't forget to follow DeviousGruntAlliance here on YouTube. I mean, you probably already do, but make sure you subscribe to him. Make sure you watch his videos, give them a like. Make sure you follow my boy Audley here on
and watch
Twitch.
His videos too.
Yeah, watch his
Twitter
vlogs,
and Twitch.
On Twitter
and
as well.
YouTube.
We got the ats right here. Right here. Whatever. They're right here on the bottom. Yeah, there's I totally forgot mine. I'm not important. I don't have cool content like y'all or interesting hot takes like y'all. So make sure you
good question. What YouTube channel is it posted on? I don't think it's a thing yet.
It is it is actually not a thing yet, but it is going to be the HCS Bracket Show. I think the page is up if you look for it. It's just kind of bare bones right now.
I'll tweet about it. We'll tweet about it when it's up. I think that'll be the
But again, thank you all so much for joining. We hope to bring you more content soon. Halo, we're trying to keep it alive, so just keep that passion going, and we will see you all next time. Any final shout outs from either of y'all?
Shout out. We're holding strong. Shout
out to like my very consistent stream viewers, 3ag, 19th Bullet.
Right.
You guys make it worth it for me to stream the 2 or 3 days a week that I do. And you guys are always you're always chatting. So I always really appreciate the guys that stick around and constantly talk and chat while I stream.
It's really
even though there's only like at most 10 of you at any given time, it really helps make it worth spending my time doing that.
I'm pretty sure the 19th Bullet and I had our top 3 perfectly correct from Casey. I think the
Really?
19th Bullet. I think the 19th Bullet was with me with the Sentinels.
He is a lethal
#1.
fanboy, so I don't think his opinion matters.
No, it matters so much. We were right. 19th Bullet.
You were right. You were right.
All right.
Dude.
Y'all, thank you again so much. Like I said, follow us. It's been a pleasure, and we will see you all next time. Thank you for watching the HCS Bracket Show, and we'll catch y'all later. Peace.